Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to ask a question in my name to the Minister for Industry, Trade, Tourism, Lands and Mineral Resources. Can the Minister explain if there are other options being considered by governments to handle the SME scheme, given that processing the grants creates a huge amount of unnecessary work for Fiji Development Bank? Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to the Honourable Minister for Industry, Trade, Tourism, Lands and Mineral Resources.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'd like to thank the Honourable Member for the question and for the opportunity to enlighten this Honourable House on why we have engaged the FDB in government's micro and small business grant scheme. In doing so also, Madam Speaker, I'd like to correct a number of misconceptions that may have been raised or inferred from this particular question. Madam Speaker, as the ministry responsible for the development of micro, small and medium enterprise sector, we considered a number of options to administer the MSBG scheme. We narrowed it down to engaging with the FDB through a memorandum of agreement for a number of very solid reasons. And the MSBG initiative, Madam Speaker, was not intended to be confined to just those in the urban centres, but to reach out to those that are genuinely in need of assistance, particularly for our farming and rural communities. And Madam Speaker, this objective has been achieved. In terms of the spread of the current distribution of the assistance, the Central Eastern Division makes up about 42%, the Northern Division makes up about 34%, and the Western Division makes up about 24% of the enterprises assisted to date. Therefore, due to FDB's reach, Madam Speaker, with the centres nationwide, including rural areas, it was considered the most appropriate partner. Now, Madam Speaker, I need to explain this properly. And for the information of the members of this House, the FDB was established under the Fiji Development Act, Cap 214, on the 1st of July, 1967. Under Section 6 of the FDB Act, Madam Speaker, it clearly outlines the functions of the bank, which is, and I quote, "It shall be to facilitate and stimulate the promotion and development of natural resources, transportation and other industries and enterprises in Fiji. And in the discharge of these functions, the bank shall give consideration and priority to the economic development and of the rural and agricultural sectors of the economy of Fiji," unquote. Now, Madam Speaker, through the Ministry's partnership with FDB on the MSBG scheme, the FDB is clearly delivering on its mandate by facilitating the promotion and development of enterprises in Fiji and giving special consideration and priority to the economic development of the rural and agricultural sectors. In our analysis, Madam Speaker, of the enterprises that we have assisted so far, and which now total 7,171, 5,041 enterprises are rural-based, which is a little over 70%, and 4,634 projects, or 65% of the total projects assisted, are in the agricultural sector. Madam Speaker, by partnering with the FDB and in administering the scheme, we have jointly created also, this is very useful information for this House, Madam Speaker, we have created also a very useful database on the micro and small enterprises. The FDB now has detailed information on 44,660 potential clients. Of these 44,660 potential clients, 19,532 are currently being assisted by the MSBG scheme. The intention, Madam Speaker, is to assist these recipients to further expand their businesses, and this could be achieved through further financial support provided by the FDB. The delivery of these types of programs are not something the FDB, Madam Speaker, is unaccustomed to or new to. And I quote from a past annual report of the bank. The government, quote, I quote, Madam, "The government also uses the FDB as a financial instrument in its development projects and plans and special assistance programs that may be necessary from time to time," unquote. This is to be expected, Madam Speaker, because of the uniqueness of FDB's role. So whilst the FDB reports to the Reserve Bank under that Banking Act as a non-bank financial institution, it comes under the Ministry of Economy, and the bank's board of directors are appointed by the Minister of Economy and are accountable for the operations of the bank. Consequently, Madam Speaker, the operations of FDB reflect to some extent the policies and development aims of the government. Madam Speaker, another important aspect that the honourable member may have overlooked is the fact that in the course of administering the scheme, it has provided the FDB a wonderful marketing opportunity, Madam Speaker. The FDB markets their products and services and attend to general queries from the public when we conducted the disbursements of grants around the country. And at the latest disbursement last Saturday, Madam Speaker, in Nagua, which is predominantly a farming community, an FDB marketing team was also present to provide advice to potential clients. Now, Madam Speaker, I have provided the honourable member a number of justifications for partnering with the FDB on the MSBG scheme. And I'd now also like to correct, as I stated earlier, a number of anomalies in his question. Someone not quite familiar with how the MSBG scheme is administered would infer from that question, Madam Speaker, posed by the honourable member, that the FDB alone is responsible for processing the grants. The Ministry, Madam Speaker, and FDB are both responsible for processing the applications. For this year alone, the FDB processed 11,143 applications, whilst my ministry was responsible for processing 7,728 applications. This involved assessing the applications used the rating system, and I've mentioned this before, earlier in the House, Madam Speaker, developed jointly by the FDB and the ministry. And of the total number of applications received this year, which was about 18,871, 7,000 applications were declined, with 11,871 applications being approved. And my ministry and FDB, Madam Speaker, are also jointly responsible for carrying out the validations, site visits, after initial assessments are done using the rating system. The ministry also assists the FDB in undertaking site visits in the Northern Division and parts of the Central and Western Division. And I'm pleased of the fact that the ministry and FDB have developed a very strong relationship and a cordial working relationship, because both the bank and the ministry understand the importance of fostering employment through the creation of micro and small enterprises. This is something that the honourable member needs to understand. And the capital injection may be a small amount, Madam Speaker, to most of us sitting here in this honourable House, but it is a huge boost to the many that have been assisted, and since they do not have the luxury to put aside savings to expand or start their own businesses, being preoccupied taking care of their daily and basic requirements or necessities. This brings me again to another part of the question, Madam Speaker, which is grossly misleading the public and perhaps intended to further a political agenda. This may have stemmed from a statement done in the public space questioning the role of FDB in the MSBG scheme. Madam Speaker, to state that the MSBG scheme is creating a huge amount of work, unnecessary work, for the FDB is very unfair, Madam Speaker, on the part of the hard-working officers of the FDB. And as I've stated earlier, this program is an extension of what the FDB is mandated to do, which is to facilitate and stimulate the promotion and development of enterprises in Fiji, and more so, Madam Speaker, giving special consideration and priority to the economic development of the rural and agricultural sectors of the economy. I suggest that the honourable member carefully consider the implications of the types of questions that are asked and he poses in this august House, and maybe, Madam Speaker, undertake some thorough research before he does so, and maybe just politely write to me and I'll answer it. Madam Speaker, sometimes the opposition develops a habit of posing questions that are about as sharp as marbles, which they exaggerate for political effect. Madam Speaker, that's correct. Have a bit of a thick skin. Madam Speaker, maybe you didn't play marbles. Madam Speaker, to conclude, I'd like to state that the merits of the program, Madam Speaker, have been recognized by members on the other side of the House, that side of the House, Madam Speaker, who have also approached the Ministry to facilitate and provide awareness on this particular program. Unlike the honourable member who does not seem to appreciate the hard work and effort put in by the FDB officials in partnering with the Ministry on this important national development initiative. And I take this opportunity also, Madam Speaker, to thank and sincerely thank the Team FDB for their valuable contribution thus far in this particular program. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I'd like to just inform honourable members that I do allow interjections in between presentations, and this is why I've allowed it, so long as it's to a responsible limit. And not only that, I would like to thank the Honourable Minister that members of his management staff continue to attend Parliament sitting today, yesterday, and also other previous sittings. And it is very important that members of the ministry staff are present to hear the debate on issues pertaining to their ministry. If there are members of staff for the other ministries that are here as well, I thank you for your attendance. Thank you. I now give the floor to the Honourable Ngawaka.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you for the ministerial statement. And thank you for the reference to playing marbles. Maybe if you don't, maybe you've been playing marbles with PNG, that's why they're halting trade with us. Madam Speaker, the weight, the load with FDB came from within FDB, and it was articulated by the CEO himself. So maybe, instead of lecturing us on how it's done, liaise with the Ministry of the Economy and make sure that FDB is well structured to do this job. Maybe that's the way to do it.
Yeah. Is it question? Thank you. I give the floor to the Honourable Barata.
The Honourable Minister stated in the last sitting that the Lawaki village bakery in Telewu was thriving, was doing a thriving business, when in fact it wasn't. The question is, can the Minister inform this House how do and how often they monitor these SME businesses? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Because your fact was not right.
Madam Speaker, although that question is not related to the FDB issue that was raised, the main question... Hold on, please. Just rephrase, please. Madam Speaker, listen. Very good question, Honourable Member. And this afternoon, when I address you on my ministerial statement, I'll address that specifically and tell you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I give the floor to the Honourable Nwekulu.
Speaker, the Minister will know, last month they distributed $760,000 in sum. That's all of my supporters. 760 of my supporters gone. Namua, 550,000. That's not. But what I'm concerned with is that there are people still living in tents, students. Can the Minister please advise us whether he's willing to redirect his priorities and allocate this money to those needed? Those needed in the Winston appeal.
Another question that is about as sharp as marbles. I keep saying that. First of all, if he's talking about people living in tents, it's a question that needs to be addressed to the relevant minister. And with respect to, I don't think that's a relevant question that he has raised. But in any event, Madam Speaker, maybe just for clarity's sake, they need to put this in perspective. There is a program under place with respect to the housing thing. And let me tell you something, if you went back and did some research and found out the rate of recovery with respect to cyclones, this particular government has had the fastest rate of recovery with respect to cyclones. Let me tell you that. You really need to go and see an economist. You really need to go and see an economist and find out and do your research. Get an economist, my friend, and find out and do your research with respect to the recovery rate after cyclones.
Thank you, Honourable Biman Prasad. Point of order.
I'm entitled to correct him.
Point of order.
Yeah. Because there's only one house in the village of Galekuro for the whole month, for the whole year. Not completed. Yeah.
I'm afraid the Speaker is not able to make a ruling to that point of order, and therefore the point of order did not qualify.
Well, because he's wrong.
Thank you. I give the floor to the Honourable Biman Prasad.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thought that was a long-winded answer to a very simple question about the options. And the question is, Madam Speaker, that the Minister has not so far clarified what the CEO of FDB said, and that is the concern we have, whether the FDB and the ministry, given what the CEO FDB said about this whole program being a handout, and might I add to the minister that they are making it a political program, not us. So he needs to tell this House whether the appropriate follow-up support to those who receive these grants are provided by FDB as well as his own ministry. No, you respond to FDB CEO. He said.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I like this. I really like this. It's a great process of explanation. Madam Speaker, it's not just the CEO that is responsible for FDB. There is a board, my friend, that actually is responsible. The board, you don't like it when you get corrected, I know that. The board is the responsible, and the board is in agreement with what I stated this morning. So thank you very much. The board is quite in agreement, and with the way I've spelled it out to you, just because somebody said something like that, I gave you a process of explanation. For your information, Madam Speaker, for the information of this House, the reason why the answer was long, that they would be very well informed. And this morning, I think they should be well informed after I've stated. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. And I give the floor to the Honourable Rationale.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think when this issue was raised last year, the ministry themselves, they would like to go, they came over and do some clarification with the Public Accounts Committee. And after the explanation, they told us that the success rate at that time was only 7 clients, or even less than 10. So out of that 10, one has already been defunct, has been announced by Honourable Dulaki. How many more left? What's your success rate on this one?
Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, I think if, as I said earlier, if the honourable members on that side of the House paid attention to what was being said about the programs that are undertaken by government, we did actually say right at the outset, not all will be successful. There may be some. Just listen carefully. Not all. In fact, it's rather good, Madam Speaker. It's great, because they think that all of government's programs will be 100% successful. That's awesome. That's really good. But, Madam Speaker, we did spell this out, and I remember quite firmly that when we did say this right in the beginning about this program, we did say that there may be some that may not be successful, that may fall by the wayside. We accept that. That is a well-known fact of just economy, Madam. It will happen. But there is a good success rate already. This is why the program continues. And let me just tell you also this, Madam Speaker, please go out to the recipients and go and ask them about how happy they are. Go out to the recipients. It's published in the papers. Go out to the recipients and say how happy they are with the program that was initiated by this Honourable Prime Minister and none of yours.
Thank you. I give the floor to the Honourable Karma.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to thank the Honourable Minister for the answer that he had given. My concern, Madam Speaker, is that the application of the law. The provision that had been read by the Prime Minister, Madam Speaker, my personal view does not allow for the program they are undertaking to be carried out. And Madam Speaker, my question is, if the Minister agrees that this project does not comply with the provision he had read, and also, Madam Speaker, that this is not under the economical development, but both buying. Absolutely. I would like the Honourable Speaker, the Minister, to reply to that, whether he agrees with that, that this is a boat buying project and is not under economic development. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, thank you, Minister. Great coordination we have within government, Madam Speaker. This is a promise that was given after the elections not just prior to the elections. This is most definitely, Madam Speaker, not a vote-buying exercise, unlike the vote-giving exercise that was attended 2 years ago. Madam Speaker, this is not. This is about helping the grassroots people of this country, Madam Speaker. I have spelled out time and time again, Madam Speaker, about the importance of this particular program. We don't go around handing out votes to people. We go out, Madam Speaker, for the information of this House, in fact, this is something we don't even give them money. It is the actual equipment that they ask for. We encourage them to uplift themselves out of poverty, etc., Madam Speaker. That's what the program is all about. This is not a last-minute exercise just before elections to do so that we can buy votes. Let me tell you, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, this program is so good that the Indian government has given its wholehearted support in the sum of $10 million with respect to this particular program. That answers your question, Madam Speaker. This is not a vote-buying exercise. That's what they think it is.
Thank you. Thank you. I would like to remind honourable members that the question time is given 1 minute. So the interjections while the 1 minute is being taken is getting disruptive, and please just control. I give the floor to the Honourable Rationale or Honourable Kiliraki.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The principal question was whether there's any other options being considered by the government to handle the SME. I would ask the Minister whether he has considered adopting the SPBD concept of poverty alleviation. It is a South Pacific business development, which they had their which covers about 7,000 women also, to address poverty all over Fiji. And the woman that won the business award was from Sausavu, Nukmalabu. So whether that option, have you considered that option to adopt South Pacific business development in poverty alleviation that has been adopted by the islands of the Pacific? Thank you.
Madam Speaker, again, I think sometimes the members of the opposition don't realize that it's not just one minister, that one ministry or only two ministries that exist in this government. There are other ministries. That is a question that ought to be addressed to the Ministry of Poverty Alleviation. If there's that particular program, the SP, I'm not sure what kind of program it is, but it's the Poverty Alleviation Ministry that will be responsible for that.
Thank you. Honourable Bolikabu.
Madam Speaker, given that this particular ministry has got programs everywhere, it's not centralized. They've got the Human Integrated Development Program, they've got this NDB somewhere, they've got the small small business SME, and last year they announced that there was a committee that was to be chaired by the Prime Minister, called the MSME. I don't know whether that has set or not. But probably, Madam, the question is, given that FDB is not paid any service fees, and FDB is a bank, and they've got customers, they give out loan, and given that this is a problem to them, it affects their daily business. Can the Minister confirm that if they are moving towards opening up, a particular unit, they will do assessment? Assessment is normally done by FDB, monitoring is done by them. Will that a unit will be considered to do assessment?
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, this is what happens when you don't attend class. Madam Speaker, he was not here the last Parliament session. I think it was, I apologize, I don't remember, but I know you were ill, but he wasn't here. And I did state regarding the National SME Council, we are actually moving towards, which is chaired by our Honourable Prime Minister. I will gladly give you the document that is leading us toward that, Madam Speaker. But yes, we are moving towards the National SME Council, but all of these programs are undertaken. They're not undertaken independently, Madam Speaker. It's all under the ministry. It's all been done carefully. And we're looking after the grassroots people is a very important subject. So yes, there's an SME Council, and if you pick up the handset, my friend, my honourable friend, you'll see the answer in that particular answer. Thank you.
Thank you. And now give the floor to